Hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. One of my biggest reading goals for this year that I have been talking about non-stop has been finishing series. It has gotten to the point where I didn't realize how many I was in the middle of until I really sat down, went through my Goodreads, and took stock of what we were doing. And it was kind of overwhelming at the beginning of this year. Let's count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. At the beginning of the year, I was in the middle of 17 series, and I'm currently in the middle of 13 series. So we have finished 4 total, which I feel really good about. And in today's video, we are going to be trying to tackle the 13 other series that I am currently in the middle of. I've been seeing so many people do this video lately, and I feel like it is just a genius way to make sure that I am staying on top of my goal of finishing series. The only series that I'm counting currently too are ones that are finished. Those are the only ones that are on my reading journal spread, because then otherwise for this year, they would technically be completed. So I'm gonna add those as those books come out, if they have more books come out this year. And the only series that are on this list are the ones that I am 100% sure that I want to complete. And now that I've officially caught you up to speed, let's go ahead and start our first book. We're starting off this vlog with a very exciting new release. We're going to be finishing off the Powerless trilogy because Fearless does come out today. April has so many good new releases. This is the second one that I was really excited for. So I'm really excited to go to Barnes today and start it there. I feel like it's just really fun to pick up a book and read like the first few chapters at Barnes. I even have some Powerless merch on. It says My Pretty Pay, and then at the bottom it says What Have You Done to Me? I forget where it's from. I'll either put it on screen or link it down below, but she got this for me because she knows that Powerless was kind of the book that really got me into fantasy. I had read other fantasy before it, but I feel like whenever I read Powerless, it was just so fun and fast-paced, and I just really fell in love with the fantasy genre, and then I started to read a lot more fantasy. Powerless was a 5-star read for me, and I really liked Powerful that came out last year, the little novella that was based on the character Adina in Powerless. So when Reckless came out last year, I was so excited. I was really looking forward to reading it, and I didn't love it. I was just so interested to see where their story went, and actually figured out it was deemed like a filler book because I got a lot of comments on that video saying it was a filler book. To me personally, there is no need, like, ever for a filler book, especially in a fantasy series. So I'm not gonna judge that book based off of knowing that it's a filler book. I'm gonna judge that book based off of knowing what I know about fantasy, because there was also not really anything in that book that did anything to move the plot further along besides the very end. It was very fun. There was a lot of cat and mouse and high stake things going on, but you also knew they were gonna get out because they always did, and it made things more predictable, and it just kind of took the fun out of it for me a little bit. There was some really good romance bits in it, and I get this is a romantasy series, so I am a little nervous to start Fearless, but I'm really excited to see where she ends it, and I don't really know how it's gonna play out. I really hope it has a lot more plot than Reckless did, and just reminds me of Powerless and the way that book went along more than Reckless. It is the end of the trilogy, so I'm really hopeful, but at the end of the day, my expectations aren't like extremely high just because of Reckless, and I don't want to judge it based off of high expectations. I want to judge it based off of like what I'm actually reading. So let's go to Barnes, pick up Fearless, and start reading it. It is officially time for my first Fearless update. I also did get the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition because I have the exclusive editions of the entire series, so I was like, okay, might as well get one of Fearless as well, so they all kind of match. And the hardback on this one just has this on the front. It could have been blank, so, you know, we'll take what we can get. I think the coolest hardbacks that I've ever gotten from Barnes & Noble with their exclusive editions was definitely the last Once Upon a Broken Heart book, A Curse for True Love. It had tons of detail and stuff on the front. I just wish that they would put a little bit more effort into their exclusive editions. Like, I love a sprayed edge, don't get me wrong, but having anything special on the hardcover at all would just be really cool. I mean, the side just says Fearless, and then the back is just empty. I don't know, I just wish it was a little bit more fun and different since it's technically exclusive. I think there's like a bonus chapter, but most of the time, I don't even read those, especially if I don't absolutely love the book. I will also say the first thing that I noticed whenever I picked up this book and I was looking at the whole stack of them all together is that this is a honker. This is a brick. I just got out the rest of my series, but especially compared to the second one, Reckless, like look at that size comparison. I remember whenever Reckless came out, I was so shook as to how small it was compared to Powerless. I will say compared to Powerless, it doesn't look like that much bigger. And it is the last book in the series, so there are like extra things to tie up. Before I say anything more, if you haven't read the Powerless series yet, it's basically following our two main characters, Peyton and Kai. We get POVs from both of them, and it is a YA fantasy romance series. In this world, there are elites and ordinaries. Elites have like certain types of powers, some of them stronger than others, and then there are a group called the ordinaries, which don't have powers and they've actually been exiled from their kingdom. Our main character Kai is actually a prince and he is the king's enforcer. So he's in charge of a lot of things, but one of his main things is finding ordinaries and exiling them. And then Peyton is actually an ordinary in disguise as an elite. She's super smart, so that's why she's made it this far in the society. And in the first book, there ends up being these trials and a lot of things just go from there. There were also balls, which is one of my favorite things to read about in a fantasy series. I just love it when they're all in these like fancy dresses and then they dance and they're like pining for each other. Oh, the yearning is so good in those scenes. And I'm really hoping we get a ball in here since the setting is more similar to the first one. I'm currently about 100 pages in and I think I am enjoying this one a little bit more just because the plot is similar to the first one, and I really loved the first one, Powerless. It was a 5-star read for me. It was one of those books that really got me into fantasy. I'm also enjoying her writing and I feel like there's something a little bit different about it. I really enjoyed it in Powerless, but I also read Powerless a long time ago, so I don't really remember too much about how I felt about her writing. But when I read Reckless last year, something felt different, but I guess not in my personal favorite way, but this feels different in like a good way, for me at least. So I'm enjoying it. I'm trying not to spoil anything for myself, but I believe this is almost 600 pages long. It has been a long time since I've read a book this long, but the pacing so far has been good. There definitely has been at least one thing that has happened that I was like shocked by, but I'm kind of like wondering also why I didn't see that coming, because it was like very smart and very genius. So I wonder what other people are thinking of that too. All I know is that because this feels more like Powerless to me, it's giving me a lot of hope that I'm really going to enjoy this book, so I'm really interested to see where she's going to take this as we go along. And with that being said, I feel like I should just get back into it. One thing that I kind of like in this book is that we're seeing a lot more characters that we met in the first book, which obviously makes sense because the setting is more similar to the first book, like I've already said. But since they were not mentioned in the second book at all, I also kind of find myself in like, who is this? I feel like a lot of the times whenever a minor character or a side character gets reintroduced after a whole book, or it's been at least one book since we've seen them, there's like a little bit more of an introduction, because we just had a reintroduction to another character, but it wasn't really a reintroduction. Like I had to connect the dots in my own head. There's also one thing about the writing that I do find a little bit repetitive. Whenever a character is more deeply in thought for a little bit, it seems like we're overusing the same sayings. And there's also another character that I really wasn't expecting to hear from, which has kind of led me to another theory about Peyton. And I'm not going to tell you my exact thought on that because I don't want to spoil it, but I'll let you guys know if I was correct more towards the end.
Guys, I don't know what happened. I was really enjoying this. Like I was eating it up. Was loving the writing, was loving how it was very lyrical and beautiful, and I was really getting into it. I was loving where the story was going. It was fun. And then, unfortunately, something happened that just didn't make any sense. And whenever that thing happened, the way that the characters reacted to almost like the effects or the consequences of that thing going on didn't really fully make sense to me. Let me just say, Kit, hate ya. You are kind of a rat to me right now, because why did you do that and what for? It was just so wildly unnecessary, and it also wasn't explained enough to me to make that fully make sense. And this book by no means was perfect before this thing happened. There were some plot things that I feel like in the order that they were in just didn't really make sense and made the pacing a little bit weird. The pacing has been a little bit slow as we've been along too. Like, I don't think this book needed to be this long. And let me just say, I am a firm believer that this whole thing could have just been a duology, or they could have taken a lot of the beginning of this book and put it at the end of Reckless, and I think I would have enjoyed Reckless a lot more. I feel like I've talked about Reckless a lot on my channel, but it just doesn't stand alone as one single book to me. It just really didn't work for me. I feel like there wasn't enough there to make that its own book, but this definitely has enough, and it's had enough as we've been going along as well. But this one thing happening, like, I won't say it ruined the book for me, it just makes no sense. Not only for these characters and the way that they react to things, but just the way that any normal person would react to these things. Again, Kit, you sly dog. Like, how are you getting away with any of this? I'm like actually really mad at him, and I feel like he's being like a little slithery snake. Like, he's having a little snake moment because I just don't know what he's doing. There's been so many weird things where his emotions will change like so abruptly, or he'll like say something kind of offhand and then go like completely back to normal, and it's just kind of like, huh? I've been liking Peyton and Kai in this book a little bit more than I did in Reckless. Reckless was just way too repetitive. And in this, there are still a few repetitive things that they do, but it's few and far between. It's less just banter, no plot. And I feel like that makes the moments that they do have even more special. When I was giving you guys my first update on this book and I said that I had a theory, as we've gone along, that theory has continued, and I think I figured it all out even more, and I was definitely right on the first theory. And the way we're getting that information is kind of interesting, kind of cool, but I also don't know how I feel about it, because I almost wish it was something that we were figuring out with the characters instead of figuring it out from like a third party in a way. I really don't know how this book is going to wrap up at all, which I kind of like, but I also do know how it's going to wrap up in a sense. Like, I do know what's going to happen. I just don't know what's going to happen in order to get to the end. And I am still just so confused at like the last 50-ish pages that I've read. Literally, like, what was that? What was that? I was literally rage reading it because I read it last night before bed, and I stayed up until like 1 a.m. just reading and reading because I just didn't really understand what was going on. I was so interested in what was going to happen next, which we love that feeling. We love not being able to put a book down. I don't know. I just don't really understand why that needed to be done that way, but maybe we will figure that out as we go along. So maybe, I just need to take a deep breath, take one with me. Okay, there we are. I'm going to keep reading. Hopefully I keep enjoying it, and that little 50-page spurt was just a little fluke. And we're going to figure out the answers as to why everything went down the way it did. Let's cross our fingers that that's what's going to happen. It is time to talk all things Fearless. I finished it, and like I said at the beginning, I was enjoying it. It was good. The pacing was good at the beginning. It was very bingeable at the beginning as well. I was really intrigued to see where we were going with the story. I liked the fun plot line we were doing. I was really glad that we were back in like the kingdom, because that was something in Powerless that I really enjoyed. But as the book kept trekking along, I kind of just lost interest. I know I already said this while I was reading, but there were several times where the writing just felt a little bit repetitive. There would be like a whole entire page explaining someone's actions
action, but the person explaining it was like from a third party, so they were like watching it happen, and it was almost like playing a game of like, how many ways can I explain this in like a beautiful lyrical way, which obviously like beautiful and lyrical still, but we also don't need that in order to like move things along. And it was kind of just making things redundant a little bit, because as we kept going along I was like, all right, like this is beautiful, I get it, but like it's just making the pacing and everything just slower, especially more towards the end. I feel like a lot of the things that happen with these characters too, we didn't fully get to see like the consequences, and a lot of the ways that the characters felt didn't feel real to me based off of these things that happened. There was something that happened that like, if I was Peyton and Kai, I would have been mad pissed. You would have heard me raging. Like, I would have been a menace to society and a menace to a certain character who did those things. But then after something like that would happen, it was just kind of like, oh, all right, let's move on. Like, what? And I ended up writing a Goodreads update about this because there was a 50-page moment that was supposed to be this big thing for the plot and just the things happening to move the plot along. And it did move the plot along, but it also had no effect further on the plot. Like, we just kind of dropped that thing, and that just really bothered me. I feel like the plot and stuff like that was interesting too, but it was also very messy in a way. And I honestly don't know how I feel about the ending. The thing that I guess was gonna happen did happen, but it was in like a different way where there was like an add-on to it, which was shocking, and she did get me there. I didn't guess that part. I'm excited because I did finish this series, but I guess not fully, because she's actually coming out with a novella, and if I am correct as to who I'm thinking about who that novella is about, I don't know how I feel about that, because I don't really care for that character at all. So I'm not really sure what's gonna happen there, but as of right now, we have finished one series, so I'm very happy with that. Like you guys already saw though, I did start our next book. I ended up starting the second Skyward novella, which is called Read On, and then I can read the next book in the series, and then I'll read the next novella, and then I'll read the last book in the series. So there's a little bit of flip-flopping in the series from the collection of novellas to the actual books. And this novella is a part of the Skyward series. In this series, we are following our main character, Spensa, and she lives in this world where they have constantly been at war since before she was even born. And they're slowly trying to uncover things as to why. Honestly, the political system as to where the second book left off had me so interested. I thought that that was such an interesting way to leave it off, and now I am so excited to get to the next book in the series, because those all follow Spensa. Like, it's just in her point of view. These novellas, however, are all following different characters, and the first one that I read was following our main character, FM, and I really enjoyed that one. It was really cute. Probably one of the best novellas I've ever read. And the second one is following a character that we really don't know a lot about. Her name is Alanique, and she is not from the same place that the other characters that I get perspectives from are from. That was a mouthful. So it's been interesting to be inside somebody's head that's a little bit different than everybody else, just because they have different life experiences and different things going on. But I do like her as a character. She definitely has like good morals and values, and I feel like as for the plot of this one, it's been enjoyable so far, been interesting. It's definitely cool to see all the different characters' perspectives and the things that are going on while Spensa is off on her own journey. And then going from these two novellas and that book, I'm really excited to see how everything connects in the next book. And I'm just really excited to continue this series. I've been enjoying it a lot. I've never really read sci-fi before. This is my first time, and this is my shout out to the sci-fi genre, because I feel like I have been sleeping on it for so long. I want to get into more sci-fi, specifically YA sci-fi, I think. I don't know if I'm ready for adult sci-fi yet. I'll get there someday, but I really like the way that this is written. It's just so clear and concise, and also like has those YA funny moments, you know, silly moments, but everything going on behind the scenes and like just the politics of it all is so genius. So I've really been enjoying it. I don't really know how to show you guys how far I am into this. I'm currently on chapter 15. This is about a 200-page novella, so I've read about this much, and I have about this much to go, if that helps. Oh, my. I don't know why I did that and why I thought that was so funny, but it gave me a giggle, so I can't complain. But I'm gonna keep on reading this. I think I'm gonna try and finish this today, and then we will move on to our next book tomorrow. Last night before I fell asleep, I finished Read On, the second Skyward novella, and oh my gosh, the way that it ended, I was literally in my bed reading the rest, and I almost started crying. I was tearing up. It was a really heartbreaking ending. I think I definitely liked the first one more, but the second one had a lot of insight into a new character, into a new world, into a lot more of the politics of everything going on, seeing how the humans and these new characters and the other aliens and stuff like that are communicating with each other is interesting as well. There was also also a little subplot of romance in this one too, which was cute. It wasn't as big as the one in the first novella, but it was still cute. And I'm really hoping that this character, Alanique, is going to be in the rest of the series. I don't know if we're going to be getting her POV ever again. I really don't know if the rest of the books in this series, if we get more POVs or if we just continue to get Spence's POV, because sometimes whenever they do novellas like this, it's because they want to add certain characters' point of views into future books. So I don't really know what's coming for me next. I will be reading the next Skyward book, Satanic, though, after these two novellas. I did read the beginning of the next novella though, and it seems like they carry off, but a lot of people recommend to read them in publication order, and reading the first two, then reading Satanic, and then reading the next novella is kind of what's recommended because that is publication order. So that's how I'm gonna read it. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was good for a novella. I did go ahead and start our next book though. We are going to be reading Killer Instincts by Jennifer Lynn Barnes next. This is the second book in the Natural series. There are 4 books in this series, and it is a YA mystery thriller series. The first one I read 2 years ago at this point, which I'm not proud of. I don't know why I didn't continue reading it because I really enjoyed it. I think in that era of my reading, I just really didn't want to read like any thriller mysteries. I was really scared of them still. And I still am a little scared. Like, let's not lie. The scaredy cat-idness is always gonna be inside of me. But I feel like the more I've read them, the more I realize that I can handle them to an extent, even though I may not be reading them all the time. Like, I can only handle them in small doses, and maybe the more I read them, the more I'll be able to handle. And I'm about to start chapter 8. I'm on page 54, and I am already zooming through this. These are so fast-paced, so bingeable. The writing is so easy to consume. And everybody explains the series as YA Criminal Minds because that's just the easiest way to explain it. We are following our main character, Cassie, and she's a profiler, so she can like read people and kind of like get into their mind to see like what their motives were. And because of that, she is able to solve crimes with a group of kids who also have like their own special gifts. And there's like a subplot of romance in here too that I'm excited to see where it goes. I love YA books, honestly, so I'm excited to just keep reading and continue, and I will update you guys throughout the day. I have a feeling I'm gonna read this one fast. I'm about a little over halfway through Killer Instincts, and like I said, I had a feeling I was gonna fly through this. I indeed am. It is just so fast-paced, so bingeable. I feel like there's always something going on or happening, or we're always learning something new, or there's a new clue as to what's going on, whether or not that clue is gonna come back later. I just feel like the story and the plot is just always progressing, which I really love about her writing. And because of the writing and the fast-pacedness, it makes me feel super excited to continue this series. I also feel like these books would be really good if you're feeling slumpy, or if you feel like you just haven't really been in like a big reading mood recently, like you can't get yourself to sit down and read. Like, I could just sit down and binge this whole book if I really wanted to. Like, if I had a whole day to do that, this would be like a perfect book to binge on a weekend. Even though it is, I think, like 375 pages, it's still just so fast paced. And since it is YA, the text is also like a little bit bigger as well, and that along with the fast paced writing and you wanting to know what's going on because it is a mystery, it's just the perfect combination for like a good bingeable book. At this point where I'm at, I really don't know who is behind everything going on. We did just kind of uncover a new clue as to what that person's motives could be behind what they're doing and the why of it all, but I also don't know if it's that person. I feel like every time I think it's a person, it's always not them. I also haven't read a lot of thriller mysteries, so be sure to take that into account. Like, if you have read a lot, you may think this is incredibly predictable, but with this one, I'm not quite sure. I have like a feeling of who I think it is, but we really haven't heard from that character in a little bit, so I don't know. Since this whole book is from Cassie's perspective too, it's really interesting being in her mind because she is a profiler. Whenever she's trying to solve a case, she always thinks of it from like the you perspective. So she's talking about that person and she's like, you wanted to be this way, you wanted to go after them, you did this because of this. And it's so like eerie in a way too, and a little bit creepy, but it's so cool to be in her mind because I've obviously never thought that way, and I feel like it makes it like a little bit more real for me hearing that, and it just makes me like a little bit extra creeped out, honestly. At this point, I also just kind of feel bad for Dean. He's just been through so much and we don't even know the half of it yet, really. I'm assuming that the whole next half of the book, there's going to be a lot of different reveals of the things going on. But he's so young and everything that's happened to him happened so young. And it's just like really hard to read about that sometimes. It's just really sad and it just makes me connect and like feel for him a lot. Other than that, I think it is time to get back into reading so I can finish this today. More confused at this point. I just have no idea who it is. And I feel like sometimes in books like this, it's almost always the person like you first suspect and then you just brush over it as you go along because like you're looking at other suspects, or it's the person you least suspect or the person you most suspect. So really anyone you suspect. I don't know, I feel like in other books I am so much better at like guessing plot twists or guessing who did what or anything like that, but in thriller mysteries like I just haven't gotten to that point yet, and it's kind of like a little bit of an adrenaline rush, and I get why people love reading these books so much. This is so like icky almost. Being able to like see inside of the bad guy, I guess the criminal's mind, is so weird to me sometimes. And I'm finally to the part where it's like really high stakes. I think I have like 20 pages left and I don't know. I'm on the edge of my seat, if you can't tell, literally leaning forward trying to read the rest. Oh, this is sick. Ugh. Oh no. Oh my gosh. Ah! I don't know. I finished Killer Instincts by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this book truly kept me on my toes. I never know who's gonna be the bad guy. I never know exactly how anything's gonna happen. I did guess like one little thing, but there's so many things happen in this book and so much to like keep up with and be interested and intrigued by that guessing one little thing isn't going to deter me from being invested in this book or feeling like it's less exciting or less intriguing. This book had me feeling scared. It had my adrenaline pumping. It also had me feeling invested enough in the characters, which I feel like a lot of thriller mysteries sometimes can't really do because they're shorter, so you can only spend so much time with them. But because this is a series, it's a little bit different, and I like that like added emotional investment I have with these characters than I do with just like any mystery thriller standalone. Overall, it was good. I really enjoyed it and it did what it needed to do. It is now time for my final reading wrap up of the video, and I also just realized all the books that we read in this video are like black or just like really dark books, which is kind of funny. The first book we read was Fearless by Lauren Roberts, and I officially completed until the novella eventually comes out, but it's not out yet. So I have officially completed the Powerless series as of right now. Like I already said in the video, I enjoyed the beginning, and then halfway through it just kind of lost me. There was a few plot things that just like didn't work, a few character choices, and a few things that just happened more towards the end that just didn't work for me. I know I said that so many times in this video because I've already started editing it, but it just didn't work for me, unfortunately. I honestly kind of feel like the first half versus the second half of this book were kind of like two completely different books regarding how well thought out they were. It felt like the first half was read through many times by many different people, was edited a lot, and it felt like the second half just didn't get as much of that love that the first half got, unfortunately. And that is just my opinion. I know so many people love this book. It's okay for me to not like a book you like, or vice versa. Reading is, as always, subjective, but I think I myself am going to stick with a rating from a 3-star to a 3.5 star. I haven't exactly thought out which way I'm really leaning yet. I do still recommend this series in general because I really loved Powerless, and I think if I were to rate all 3 books, I would do Powerless, Fearless, and then Reckless. And I know there are so many people who love all the books in this series, so this series very well could be for you. I just don't think it is my personal favorite, even though the first book in it was 5 stars. This book just really didn't live up to what I wanted it to be, but there were still a lot of things that I loved it, so that's why I'm still like kind of questioning my rating currently. Then I read the second Skyward novella, Read On. I really enjoyed this. I think it was a little bit slower than the the first novella, and as for pacing for novellas goes, I think that Brandon Sanderson does like a really great job with this, and J.C. Patterson, I guess, because they wrote these in tandem with each other. It was a little bit slower than the first one, but we were learning a lot of new things about a new part of the world and a new people. I really liked Elenique's perspective, and the ending was so heartbreaking, honestly, and the way that they did other things at ending too was really interesting. I think I'm gonna rate this a 4. I don't normally rate novellas, but since it's a part of a series, I will. My ratings on novellas are never that serious. I enjoyed it and I recommend that. I feel like that's all you really need to know about this one. And then the last book I read was Killer Instincts by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, the second book in the Natural series by her. I really enjoyed this. It was fun. It was fast paced. I think I'm gonna stick with a 4-star on this one, which I believe is the same rating that I gave the first one. I honestly might rate the first one higher now that I'm thinking about it. At the time that I read that one, I hadn't read a ton of thriller mysteries, and I feel like that one was just a little bit more thrilling to me than this one was. I feel like this one did get thrilling eventually, and I still really enjoyed it. I just feel like a few things more towards the end, I guess, would have happened a little bit differently. I kind of felt a little bit dissatisfied with some of the things that happened, like more towards the end with how we wrap things up. It kind of felt like that was like a little bit rushed, but other than that, I enjoyed it and it was good and fun. I think this video was rather successful, if I do say so myself. We finished one series and continued 2 others, so now I am in the middle of 12 series officially, and I am well on my way to completing those, so I do feel pretty good about that. If you guys have any thoughts on these books, as always, leave them down below in the comments. We can chat about it down there. And if you guys enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you watched until this far in the video, go ahead and comment down below the crown emoji so I know who the real ones are who watched until the very end. If you want to keep up with me on the daily, go ahead and follow my Instagram, my TikTok, and my Goodreads. I'm always posting on all of those, and they're always linked down below in every video. And I think that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys are all having a great day. I love you guys so much, and we'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys. Oh my god, nothing matching, period. But I don't have my stuffed animal because I'm an adult. We don't have those, apparently. If you're reading Killer Instincts by Jennifer Lynn. Holy shit. Why does this happen? Oh god. My camera's literally gonna break one of these days. Peace.